Just a general assessment. I feel like this, just to go back to the argument at the beginning, I feel like this is just right for you to, yes, want to upgrade, but upgrading from this is not significant or worthwhile. I feel like, yes, if you have the money, do what you can. No one is going to stop you from spending your money. The IAMs that I tried immediately, all of them gave me a better experience, yes, but it wasn't significantly better than this. Honestly, even with the blondes here, I genuinely believe upgrading from this, you need to be shooting big. Save your money, wait for the right time to strike when their deals are on. And I think you will come back to this and really appreciate it for what it is. So it's been a while, and I know I start all my videos with this, but this one's been in the making. This one is one of those revelatory moments that I needed to genuinely take my time to value and appreciate. And life brings these things to you, these opportunities, very randomly, and I was very fortunate to make a promise on what you saw earlier. Also, shout out to that one commenter who asked me to basically show him the next step. And it took me 2 years to get there, but we're finally here. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much. The support in the last video was unbelievable. Shout out to all of you that stayed on and everyone that clicked. First of all, I'm not paid by Hibby. I'm not paid by anyone. And if you know someone that's willing to take the financial loss in supporting someone with like 33 subscribers, please email them. But I genuinely, I'm so grateful for all the support and the interaction that I've had in the comments recently. And I hope that we can keep this going. Even though I know, going off of the trend data, that this isn't particularly a trending topic. But in terms of the audio space, in terms of the concept of hyper-consumerism and minimalism in our lives, I feel like this is a very important video, I think, for many of us enthusiasts, and myself included. It was a learning moment for me. So thanks again, and let's get into the video. Now, it's very unfortunate, the timing of this video. Let me start out with a caveat. I genuinely hope nothing has changed. It has, unfortunately, following the video by Clinical. And I had no idea he was going to do what he did on Hangouts, which inadvertently kicked up the price of this on the resale value back up like $200, $300, which is unfortunate. But I managed to get this a good month or so before Clinical made his video. And this is of years of research and patience. Currently on YouTube, my favorite YouTube video isn't the video of Manchester United getting completely molested by FC Porto and me getting excited because my manager is about to get sacked. No, it's not that.
I must say, Arsenal, they played well.
It's actually this video by Jay. And Jay came out with this video on the McLaren. And in it, he pointed out that timing on this extremely luxury, basically scalpel of a vehicle, the 720S, everything about it led to a moment of hyper appreciation of what it was in the time when it wasn't really when it was released. It was inaccessible to most people, and that in this moment in time, this masterpiece was available to the masses. And this is something that, as the title has put out, something that hype, patience, and depreciation does to any luxury item. Of course, Vevlin goods work differently, but eventually, given this climate that we're in, the fact that pennies aren't really that easy to come to, we are able to truly evaluate what is important in our lives and what we want to spend our money on. And for me personally, the auditor experience, much like Jay is with the automotive industry, for me it's audio. I wish I had the ability to spend my money on anything and everything, but I can't. And the Monarch MKII is this top tier, top of the line experience that I think I'll quite have a real problem explaining or describing my experience to you in this video. But I want you to understand that this natural progression will not come naturally to everyone. The path that you choose to get there is yours and yours alone, and I want to commend you for getting on that path, whether it was buying millions of tiny IEMs on the way, or like me, saving up and eventually getting there. People that are able to experience this amount of performance are truly lucky, and I consider myself as one of them. I think let's start by breaking down sound. If you check out the graph, those of us who ascribe to the teachings or the learnings or the religion of Harman, I think you can see that there are similarities in the way the pinna is carefully tuned, and you look at sub-bass, you look at the mid-range. Fair enough, there's some alterations, but for those of you who came from the Blessing to Dusk like myself, this felt like a very natural progression. Compared to the Dusk, the sub-bass isn't as rumbly, but as we'll get into the description of sound, you'll begin to understand why you don't necessarily need tons of bass. You just need absolute perfection of control. And that experience, much like, the argument of a girl having a fat ass and that shape is better than size, that very much applies here as it blends into the mids. The mids are dead as I love them. And as you progress, fair enough, everything in 2 to 3K is it's a bit abnormal in my opinion. And we'll come to the 5K and the 8K region, and it brings, maybe this is a bit rude for me to say, but elements of trashiness. However, the experience, as we'll find out shortly, it's nothing short of divine, for lack of a better word. Naturally, we do everything here, especially when it comes to the evaluation of IEMs. We'll break down everything by genre. My testing equipment, very easily and easily accessible, is of course my Hibby R4. It pumps out, they say, upwards of like 450 milliwatts to the balanced output. For those of you who understand Class A, which this is, we understand that that really isn't 450 given how Class A works. Think of it as maybe like half of that, because most of it has been converted to heat, but 250 milliwatts is plenty for something like this. Considering in order to get 70 decibels out of this, or playing at 70 decibels, you need like 0.00158 milliwatts. That my calculations might have been slightly off, but it's that low. And to be blasting at 120 decibels, which is absurd, you need like 15 milliwatts. So you can run this off of anything. If I blow hard enough, this thing will be so damn loud. For context, my simple AU outputs, I believe it's like 100 milliwatts out of the balance output, and runs perfectly fine. You would only need 15 milliwatts to get to 120 decibels. So it's more than manageable. And my baby EOS Studio Hot 100 puts out 50 milliwatts, gets plenty loud. Now, I will argue that maybe some headroom is good, and that's why running it off of something as powerful as the Hippie works wonders in terms of you being able to scale up. Because I had to use this on medium gain, and I was pushing maybe half volume. So maybe the audio, much like a BMW, are understating power, but it's more than adequate. Anything from an Apple dongle all the way to the most expensive thing you own can run this really well. Now, I think a caveat, I'm using Amazon Music and Apple Music, lossless, as always. You cannot feed this garbage. And I think it has something to do with how it's tuned, and I haven't experienced that before. You're not gonna throw TikTok videos on this and expect it to change it drastically. Or just stuff off of Spotify. This kind of needs some respect. Yeah? We'll talk about that in a bit. And just very lastly, before we get into the evaluation of sound, I'll just talk briefly on soundstage. I think everyone gets caught up in the need for soundstage to be vast, and not me. I feel like when that's the case, it's really hard for me to have somewhat a tangible, a relationship to the instrument that I'm experiencing. And this keeps everything fair enough. It gives you a somewhat out of head experience, but it isn't cheesy and distant in a manner that you cannot touch or see what you're hearing. Maybe that's just a me thing. Soundstage wise, this isn't going to blow your mind, but there are other elements of this or aspects of this IEM that make it truly special. So let's get into it. Electronic. We have to start off with Fabiana, who released her recent LP, which I wasn't too keen on, but there are some bangers in there. But let's take it back to the OG, Mystery. This was produced by Jaipal. The elements in this track, such as the thunder in the bottom right, that is perfectly rendered. That isn't something that I get from other IEMs. It isn't haunting in a way that a bassy IEM gives you, but the fact that it is so tangible, in terms of its definition, it really shows you the whole concept of shape, not size, back to the Bunda talk. Fabiana's vocals are perfectly centered. I haven't had this sort of a center stage experience as this, and we'll talk about other artists shortly. But you feel as though Fabiana's voice is touchable. There are these 808s that are wonderfully rendered within this track, specifically in the top left, center channel. Nothing at all ever, overstays its welcome. Perfect bass control, perfect mid representation that is very neutral, allows the singer's vocals to shine. And as we move over to Jasmine, you take these properties, and no joke, when the song started playing, I took a pause and I scrammed and I said, no, this is not happening. I said, this isn't happening, because what I was experiencing wasn't real. I said, how have you been able to do this on a track like this? Do you know how a Jaipal track is filled with so much drama, so much chaos? Most of the time, IMs don't know what to do with this track. The shimmering swirls at the start and the thumping 808s in the bottom right are so complex to pull off with finesse, and this does it perfectly. Now, fair enough, there's an element of distortion that I thought arose as a result of poor fit. That might have played a part, but I'll say when it comes to the rendition, or rather the performance of the elements of this track, I'll give this an 82%. Keep in mind that the next IM that tried to render the cymbal crashes, Sizzy swirls, this soundstage that isn't otherworldly, but is cavernous in its own sense. The next IM was doing like a 60-50%. Claps, reverb, have such an unreal element of decay. It's haunting. You'd almost think these things are happening in the room. You are able to understand on a track, and this is something that I feel like many people have pointed out with these IMs, you're able to hear what Jai is saying. And that isn't easy. Everything he's saying. It's not lost in all of the crashes, in all of the thumpy 808s, the swirling sub that's just engulfing your head. You know, you think of bass as almost debilitating, as you want it to be debilitating in its nature, but it's enticing. And that's what I expect out of a solid reproduction of bass. It is this. Lucy Railton is maybe the scariest artist I know. Just look at this cover. Just look at it. There is something so intimidating about this. You almost feel like there should be elements coming out of the screen. Corner Dancer is a track with several electronic elements, and they're birthed in ways that you have never experienced in your life via this IM. It has my viscera doing backflips, feeling like there's a xenomorph like in my skull, okay? A xenomorph in my skull, okay? Not a face hugger. The xenomorph exists in my head. It comes back to it being able to reproduce the highs in a manner that is so uncomfortable. It's never ever peaky. It doesn't feel uncomfortable in a manner that makes you wince. It doesn't help that the cover looks like this. I think quite literally the only other thing that gave me this type of feeling was like the H.R. Geiger Eildred covers, and gosh, the Eve tomorrow. Oh my god. I'll give this, come on. It's an A. I think the FR makes this the perfect electronic IEM of all the genres. It is an a standout. If your library is anything like mine, just buy it. Just buy it. Hip hop. Now, I know we cancelled and we did. But listen, I respect 40 way too much. I respect his production a lot, and I have my problems with it. We all have our problems with Drake, we really do. But Champagne Poetry is one of 3 true tests of audibility in rap, especially Drake's nasally irritating voice. Maybe some of you will feel it's akin to mine. Shame on you. But he has this nasally prepubescent vibrato that can induce serious headaches, and it's almost intentional because we know 40 EQs his voice and makes him prominent in the mix. But with this, much like with Jai, you are able to discern what Drake is saying without it giving you a headache. It is smooth and somewhat disrespectfully disciplined. Drake is actually listenable, and do you know how insane that is? As a test of now bass hits and thuds, you go to a Zaytoven track. I am still standing on it that Zaytoven, Clams, 40 and Metro single-handedly changed how rap should sound, coming from like the late 10s, let me say the mid 10s. And Hate the Real Me is where the IM looked at me, it looked back at me and said, don't worry, let me show you what this little booty of mine has. Yeah, it dominated that Zaytoven 808, and I did not feel wanting. It hit me with the power of 1,000 suns with no stress. And that's the thing, it's effortless with this. And that all happens with hi-hats going all over the place, snares tizzing in a way that is lifelike and somewhat uncomfortable in nature because you haven't had something reproduced so well in your life. Panning between left and right channels, it feels like you're in a fever dream. And Future's vibrato is rendered so perfectly, much like with Drake and Jai. And that's a common theme. The mids in this IM are so dead perfect. Things like voice and audibility is never a problem for you. You're never asking, what did he say? layering, impeccable. But if you want something that's grubby and disgusting, you go to JPEG Mafia's Ball remix. And I'll always have a JPEG Mafia as a reference point because him and Tyler have this very disgusting production. Nothing about it feels refined in the slightest, but that's what gives you this raw experience of rap that I feel makes me enjoy it more. This is a perfect display, another perfect display of now the various aspects of bass control where you can have heft in as much as heft as this can give you and refinement, but also severe control of, I think for rap and hip hop specifically, how the mid bass, I think suck out, makes your mid experience and your highs feel somewhat divorced, and that is the divorce between bass and mids and highs, in a manner that makes a rap track feel genuinely emotional. I think it inspires you to either headbang or weep or commit crimes. 808s hit perfectly dead center, and once again with that authority. You have Denzel's voice perfectly rendered and the most audible I've ever heard in my life, perfectly centered in this bubble. And I think the key standout out here is the highs and how the hi-hats perfectly well defined. You never heard cymbal crashes like this before. You never will, and I'm so sorry that you weren't able to because Clinical messed up the meta, but it is divine. I've always said there are so many similarities in electronic and hip-hop, and this is one of them. The FR, the grab, it just allows itself, it just lends itself so perfectly to rap and electronic music, and I feel like maybe most of us have that in our libraries. Maybe not you, Resolve, but we like this, and it works. $1,000 is a lot of money, which is why I'm going back to, hey, get it now. Yeah. Get it now. The Clinical messed it up, but just get it now. It's an A. It's another A. Pop. Now, John Darko and other blasphemers would lie to you that Spinning Away by Brian Eno and John Cale is the greatest pop song ever.
Highlights for me include Spinning Away, which he did with John Cale, which I think is the most glorious pop song ever by anybody. And
I'm sorry, it comes in a good second. Yeah, Brian Eno is one of my mother's favorite artists of all time, so I'll honor it. But anything done by PC Music, most specifically all of the things off of this album, yeah, come on. Caroline Polachek's Go As A Dream is, I think it's something that you need to genuinely, you need to feel, and that is something that is afforded to you with this IEM. This is where I can see certain deficiencies though. When we go back to how the mid-bass talk is, I can see how people would take offense to how mid-bass is done in this IEM, and you see it especially in certain vocal registers, and I think Caroline is one of them. I know Caroline, and I can tell that with how this is tuned, you kind of, there's a gap. There's a gap in her voice. Imagine being in that summer sun, you know, that 11 o'clock going to 12. And the good thing about that sun is that in certain climates, it's giving you this heat, but it is accompanied by humidity that makes it somewhat bearable. Now imagine if you take away the humidity and now you're hitting midday going to 1. That kind of sun, that's uncomfortable. And that's what you get with certain female vocals. It can be a bit uncomfortable. However, what spares it, or what works in its favor, is that the bass is tuned in such a way that it traps you in this cave. And rumbles in this track provide an almost Atmos-like coverage. It results in this sense of trepidation that is then somewhat cut through by cymbal strikes and her voice. It's genuinely startling. It reaches deep down in your soul in a manner that you have never ever felt before. And I know I keep saying this, but that is how important this IEM is. One thing that I noticed though about highs with this track specifically and Caroline is that there are moments around the 5K and 8K region, as I alluded to earlier, there is somewhat average definition. I think also it falls in line with instrument production for cymbal strikes, crashes, hi-hats. There's a sense of refinement that feels missing. It's a bit tacky. It's giving me AirPods Pro 2 energy, and those go for $150. And so that is another criticism I think of the treble. It can be a bit splashy, which begs the question, why do they tune it like this? But that's another question for Theo Audio. All the same, it then surprises you with unreal effortlessness. The sense of ease when it comes to decay of the relevant instruments in the section of music. It's mad and beautiful. It's perfectly controlled with the delicacy of a violin plucks, the shimmering synths of Caroline's voice. Tom hits. There's no experience as ethereal, otherworldly. And of course, the soundscape was crafted by one of the world's best, Danielle Hall. As I told you, heretics. Move over to some classic Dido. And on Stoned, there's a rain stick in the right channel that genuinely made me pull the face like maybe I was ejaculating. And I'm not joking, because Dido's voice feels. You don't hear, you feel her voice, and it feels smooth, like it's massaging your eyeballs, which is mad. But that is what I think the effect of the electrostatics in tune with the BA drivers, that's what it does to you. Look at what this IEM can do. Look how I'm describing this thing. It's an otherworldly experience. I'm not describing an IEM. It's absurd. Come on. I think here, with the oddities in mid bass, with the oddities in the treble, I'll summarize it up maybe to an A. You know what? I'll be harsh. It's $1,000. A B plus. Everything is so perfect, but because everything is so perfect, the imperfections stand out, and annoyingly so. So I'll give it a B plus. Rock. Now, this is where I think the elements of mid-bass control, or the lack thereof, not that it per se has a lack of control, but it has a lack of sheer volume in terms of how it was tuned. This is why I think this pops up the most, and I think that's why people that love rock may not. It's still a fantastic monitoring IEM in that regard, but maybe not the most enjoyable in that regard. Now, a track such as Iron Pyrite by Lemeth technically qualifies in the electronic section, but Iron Pyrite is such an unbelievable melding of electropop and rock, with sizzling synth passages and traditional lead guitar, glistening starry keystrokes, and the track surprised me with the amount of warmth that it had given the tuning of these IMs, the sub bass and how the mid bass is tuned. However, Ulrich's voice again is a bit affected. It sounds even more hollow considering how it was mixed and recorded, and despite it being extremely well defined, the concept of warmth is lacking, especially with the kick drum, which granted has punch, but there's an element of heft and tactility that may be missing. However, with the way everything else is balanced in this record, there's a patronizing sense of refinement, and that is something that we will keep seeing. It'll be a repetitive theme. You come to particle flux, and bass guitar is placed in the four extremities of the track. It's played suspiciously well. Bass hits I don't feel like they're missing out, The lead guitar cuts through this really thick, dark atmosphere, which is still surprising considering the sheer quantity of sub bass that this IM, may be, quote unquote, may be lacking. However, in this thick fog, Chelsea's soft voice, once again extremely audible as a result of this very deadpan mid-bass, very similar to Caroline's, cuts through from this cavern, in this cathedral of nothingness, and it's not trampling over other elements in this track. Everything is so well layered, never getting lost in your head stage or outside of it, which I hate. There's a break in which it's just a kick and feedback, and then the bass guitar and drums fall into place, and it is genuinely terrifying. It felt like a jump scare. It's then followed by this drop and Chelsea's refrain with cymbal crashes that are littered around the soundscape. There's this reverberation that comes out in this somewhat indisciplined manner, and somehow Chelsea isn't lost in any of this. I haven't experienced an IM that allows you to respect the vocalist and pay attention this keenly. And I think to summarize it all, you can tell that Karina, in around the 48-second mark, you can tell that she's building up too much saliva at the bottom of her gums and the trapping between your gums and your cheeks. And you can almost feel her swallowing, and coming back for the next stanza. That is the element of realism that I have never experienced. Now with these, I'm able to tell that a singer has built up too much spittle. Are you fucking with me? It's an A. Maybe an A minus. Maybe an A minus going B plus, but it's an A minus in my books, because being able to hear lead vocalists like this is such an underrated, maybe not underrated, but it's an experience that I feel people chase, and you get it here. You do. Metal. Now, carrying all similar properties, I think, from rock. In terms of assimilation to FR, just the technical prowess of this IM, my standout, my reference tracks, I, Dogma, and Rip and Tear. I, Dogma is okay. I think because this IM doesn't particularly lend itself to tons and tons and heaps of sub bass, much akin to like a Blessing to Dusk. The demon's voice doesn't come out as authoritative as it could be. And it doesn't sound anemic though. It has great control, it's still dark, still provides that cavernous atmosphere, and that translates very well into Rip and Tear, with similar results like in Caroline's situation or in Chelsea's situation. Guitars come off, especially the bass in the top left, with authority. There's a sense of auditory bliss. There's perfect layering, much similar to Particle Flux, with some absurd thuds and impacts. Despite the mid bass not being a standout, it still feels engrossing. You feel like you're in a mosh pit. Take what you can from my analysis of rock and just transpose it here. Here I'll give it a B. I'm not necessarily missing anything, but it's not a particular standout in terms of that sense of sheer depth. Maybe that's where this misses out. So a B sounds fair to me. Orchestral. I think a strong suit for this IM. We go back to my reference, floating points. This shows scale and the idea of macro dynamics. Technicalities, as I've pointed out, are on point. Never ever misses. This is the best I've ever heard instruments, and they sound unbelievably well realized. And it's not a big spaghetti bowl of sound. Everything is perfectly separated. The track blows up so endlessly. You feel like once again you're escaping this tiny cave that we're in, and you come out and it's one of those Bali caves that's just blue skies, free clean air. There's unreal instrument decay. It's absurd, and that's one takeaway especially from this track. You're never wincing. You are genuinely terrified of this crescendo and where it's going. And you go to now another complex artist like Deval Timothy, with elements of complextro and IDM in what is technically orchestral music or classical music. Imagine if Nobuo Uematsu, Porter Robinson, and Jason Status had a child. This is modern classical crossover music, and it can't be better described than this. You want to know separation, you want to know layering, macrodynamics. Your IMs don't have it. They just don't like this. They just don't. Your IM is not this. I'm so sorry, it's not this. You can be listening to a beautiful piano solo, and then all of a sudden there's distortion and a flanger kicks in, and then suddenly you're listening to the beeps of an open corridor, and much like his spun, you experience reverb like never before. You experience it more than just hearing. The sense of feel is attached to this track, and you feel it on your nerve endings. That is how impactful this is. That's how impactful certain sections or certain elements of music are reproduced. Depth is well simulated, instruments are well realized, and they're respectfully defined in their own spaces. Grand halls are well reproduced. I've never understood this concept of it's a theater hall experience. Come on, just keep it in my head, but allow every instrument to be well realized so that I can pick it out and feel it. And that's this, You spend all those years going, what was I doing listening to music? It was an insult. You know, we lose our hearing most likely by the time I'm 40, and that's what science says. All of this has been happening in music, and I feel like it's been an insult, my experience to music, with music. And this has changed that for me. I hope I'm able to keep these strong for as long as I'm living, you know, well taken care of. And as you could see from the intro, I already kind of, I was pushing it by, you know what, if you were able to understand what I did in the intro, you know it was a big no-no. But to come back to the music, sub-bass cavernous allows strings and woodwinds to have a sense of heft that is attached to this sense of lightness that I cannot quite describe. I don't think I'm going to describe it well enough. And I would love for you people to experience how sub-bass is reproduced. It's not mad, but the level of refinement this allows genres such as orchestral and hip-hop and electronic, it is truly special. It is truly special. This is another A. Much akin to electronic, much akin to hip-hop. It's another A. Well deserved at that. Now, despite all these unreal things, I still find myself pulling out my Blessing to Dusks. I do. They're old, battered from like 2020. The left faceplate is coming off. Here's the thing. The Monarchs do unbelievable things with sound. They do everything. The problem is they're doing everything all the time. And a critique of this IEM is its fit. That for me is very difficult, and you know, it's very picky with your tip rolling. I ended up, funny enough, using the old medium-sized tips on the Dusk, and I put them on the Moondrop, and they worked for me. Because I got this off of eBay. They didn't come with any tips. But I'm getting some new ones this month. The Dusk's technical ability and FR are perfect to me. And that's why it was a natural progression to this. They're very similar. Keep in mind, you know, barring the driver assembly, these are practically the same. Maybe sans electrostatics and maybe one BA if I remember correctly. You know, tracks such as Jamie XX's Do It Again hit with a body of warmth that the Mark II I think the Mark II wishes it had. It's a scalpel and I'm able to respect it for what it is. But, you know, that same element of I'm looking at you and I'm seeing what you're doing and I'd like to do that. It's the same for Surf by Hudson Mohawk. And it's not just a single track issue. That element of really nasty heft is something that I do miss once in a while on the Monarch. But that is only as a result of listening to this once in a while. There are moments, however, when this nasty heft is kind of shunned upon by the Monarch. He looks at it like, nigga, how embarrassing. Like, I feel like the Monarch looks at it like, stop it. Grow up. And I realized that, listen, I love the Monarch, but I'm not always trying to study my music. Sometimes I'm trying to catch a vibe. The Monarch is a light technical fighter in the octagon, and the Dusk is, sadly, an Anthony Joshua type. You know, Anthony Joshua sucks right now. But that is the only type of relation I can make. The Mark II is a reality machine with perfect transients, attacks, the perfect head stage in my opinion, layering that is ever so realistic, so visceral, verging almost on tangible, better in every sense than the Dusk. I close my eyes and I don't see anything coming close. That's what this is. Head and shoulders above everything. Here, you feel at times that it presents things to you with unrequited lucidity. Even simple YouTube videos I was watching the RDC soundtrack tier list, and it was unreal listening to my youth via the Monarchs. It felt like a space opera, you know, from Revenge of the Sith, with the guy's voices being so clear, no piercing, and well separated. And you go on to viewing like I've been rewatching Maximilian and Lawrence replaying the Doom Eternal DLC, and it discombobulated me. The separating, the panning, you know. The Dusk, on the other hand, is a musical machine. There's no denying it. It is kinda with many things, to many sources. Maybe not with many ear tips, because tip rolling is still a thing here. It makes excuses for poorly recorded tracks. It can make you headbang. It is definitely more comfortable, more attainable. I love it, but it can get head boomy. But when you take it in bits and pieces, you appreciate it for what it is. When we move on to a summary of sound, the MONARCH MKII is something that I will cherish for the rest of my life, and when it breaks down, I'll save up and I'll get another. That's how much I love it. My music experience, I feel quite honestly, started and ended here. The Dusk got me in the door. The P1 taught me what technicalities and refinement could be. The Blonde got me started on understanding driver counts, driver types. And here I finally am, 2, 3, 4 years later. It's remarkable. Is it value? At the $1,000 mark, it's hard. Value is subjective. If you're able to be lucky like me and get this for around the $700, even if you're more fortunate, $600 tag, jump on it. I don't know when we'll be able to get it again, because Clinical once again fucked it up, but you can get them on the second-hand market, and mine was in good order. The shells are in good order. Of course, it didn't come with any tips. Jump on it as soon as you can. So that's my video. I used crazy words to describe how I felt. And I don't know any other way to describe what this made me feel. I hope that you're able to experience this, and I hope that you're able to love your music more. I've been Sam Sumba, and I hope we meet again soon. Won't be too long. Take care.